Remember your first semester teaching? The syllabus was hot off the printer. You weren't sure how to curve grades, and someone just called you professor for the first time. The next generation of instructors is feeling all of that and possibly even asking ChatGPT, what exactly is a learning objective at 3 a.m.? This episode brings real talk from instructors who've been there, survived that, and even enjoyed office hours. Maybe. Welcome back to the What and Who of EDU, where we bring you insights from the leading educators, researchers, and innovators who are shaping the future of teaching and learning. On our podcast, we share real-world classroom strategies that can help you create a more impactful and effective learning environment. I'm your host, Marissa Bluestone, and today we're sharing 10 tips for new instructors. And if you'd like to learn more about our featured educators who faced blank stares, brutal evals, and taught through it all, their bios are there for you in the show notes. When Betsy Langness started teaching, she didn't get training wheels. She got a syllabus, a classroom key, and a good luck. For her, transitioning from counseling to full-time faculty meant figuring things out fast. 2 decades later, as professor and psychology department head at Jefferson Community and Technical College, she's still refining her course and still leaning on a mantra that new instructors everywhere should hear. Be one day smarter.
One thing that I was told when I first started out, and I was totally stressed about being an instructor because I went from a counselor position to a full-time teaching position in psychology, is they told me, you just have to be one day smarter. So don't stress about it. It's going to be okay. Show your personality through little tidbits while you're explaining some of the content, and start really small with technology. Just try one thing, and when you get that down, you can add more to your plate, but don't try to add too many things at once. And always ask for feedback. That is one of the biggest things that I think has helped my classes become more successful.
And once you've made it through that first day, keep going.
I consistently refine my course. I'm sure people think I'm crazy, but I change my class almost every semester to try to keep it up to date and really put those extra things in there that students or other faculty have passed along to me.
In other words, ask for feedback, tweak the course, embrace the chaos, even if it ends in discussion board mutiny, which sounds absolutely terrifying. Like, Zoom link expired and 30 students are emailing you at once. Terrifying. Okay, you're one day smarter. The next hurdle, well, that's feedback, and it's not always the kind that fills your cup. You're getting evaluated by 18 to 22-year-olds with strong opinions and fast thumbs, which brings us to Dr. Ryan Herzog, Associate Professor of Economics and Faculty Fellow at Gonzaga University. He reminds us that student feedback is inevitable and sometimes savage. Listen, learn, and then take heed of our second tip, which is don't take it personally.
We are being evaluated by largely 18 to 22-year-olds that are taking this class for the first time, that a lot of them are making assumptions that just aren't fair or valid. So I think the advice to give is don't take it personal, because you're going to get feedback. You're going to get critical comments and feedback. Everyone does. We all get these comments, and you're doing the best you can. Right. And a lot of times in your first couple years, you're working so hard to try to make the perfect class, the perfect assessment, the perfect everything. And you're experimenting and you're trying things out, and things are going to fail. Students are going to have frustration, but that's okay, right? Learn from what you're doing, reflect on it, and make modifications and changes. And don't worry about being perfect, and don't take the comments personal.
Everyone's got a flop assignment or two. Maybe it was too ambitious. Maybe it relied on skills students just didn't have. Dr. Herzog has had those too.
This semester, I tried to do more stuff around current events. and relied more on videos and learning curve within Achieve for some of the core content. And I assigned everything and we would review the material in class. And then turns out, well, we spent too much time talking about current events. And so, okay, well, we'll move on. We won't do that next time. So we all do things in ways that we think are great. And at the end of the day, we need to modify. And so I think those are the things, right? Is keep experimenting, right? Nothing's perfect and just keep making adjustments.
Forget what it says on ratemyprofessor.com. That was so yesterday. What matters? Learn, adjust, and then keep experimenting. It's feedback, not a final grade. You've taken the feedback, you survived the critique. Now what? Do you change everything? Do you scrap it all? Not according to Dr. Kendra Thomas. The associate professor of psychology at Hope College has a matrix, a method, and even a spoon in the porridge. She brings us our third tip that tells us it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So find your inner Goldilocks.
I think a common feeling is that you have to make the perfect class, or like it's easy to get caught in this all or nothing. Like a semester just ended, student evaluations didn't go as planned, you didn't teach the class you wanted to teach, and you have a fresh start next semester. We're going to completely revamp it. And that might be too much. That might be too big. And so finding the right amount, and then other times of like, I've been teaching this class for 10 years straight. I've got it. And that's not right either, because the students are changing, the technology is changing. And so thinking that I just have this class that's ready to copy and paste into a new semester isn't a great strategy if you plan to be in the business for the next several decades. And so I try to think like, what's the one thing that should be done to improve? Like maybe I need a rubric for this assignment. If I'm tempted to not change anything because I don't have the time for it, there's probably at least one reading that needs to get swapped out, or one TED Talk to be introduced, or one assignment that needs a better rubric.
She's not wrong. But how do you decide what stays and what goes? If you're thinking she has a plan, you guessed correctly.
So I taught a new class last semester, and one of the things I did at the end of the semester is with the whiteboard, I drew this little 2x2 matrix with 2 dimensions, 4 little quadrants, like what took the most time and what had the most impact. And so you have most time, most impact, least time, least impact, most time, least impact, least time, most impact. I gave them the syllabi and the assignments. I asked them to put the assignments there. And that was really useful as a, like, if I can't change everything next semester, I should at least change the things that took the students the most time and had the least impact, because that's busy work. And I'll do the same thing for me. What took the most time grading and had the least impact? Or what took the least time grading, but the students said had the most impact? And that like simple quadrant strategy can be really useful to figure out, in the absence of time, what do you change?
Just one thoughtful change at a time. And no bears were harmed in the making of this matrix. Dr. Kendra Thomas says change one thing. Dr. Jennifer Ripley Stickle says don't change too many things at once. No need to download a dozen apps and gamify your syllabus by next Tuesday. The teaching professor and non-majors biology program director at West Virginia University has a better idea. She builds her courses piece by piece, which brings us to tip 4. Just pick one.
So my advice would be to pick one. Pick one tool, pick one technique, pick one thing to try to incorporate into your classroom. There are so many awesome things out there to try. There are so many tools and technology, and your classroom could turn into a circus very quickly. And your students will never have a clue what's going on or what's expected for them, and they'll just feel like guinea pigs, and you'll be exhausted in the meantime. I started with one. I started with clickers, and then it took me another year or so, and I threw in a few group activities. And honestly, I'll always changing even now as my students change of whether, oh, this group activity isn't so great anymore. I'm going to ditch that, or, learning new tools that have come out and new smart book programs that I can give to my students and new apps that are coming out. But I will try more than one thing. One thing is it, because it's too much and it's too overwhelming, and you'll get lost. You'll get lost in it. And instead of spending the time connecting with your students and realizing what they need, you'll spend all your time developing these tools that are done in 15 seconds of class time.
One new tool is a recipe. Well, that can quickly lead to disaster. So take it from Dr. Ripley Stickle, and don't let your course become an educational potluck. Step away from the App Store slowly. Okay, so you've tried one new thing. You didn't tech yourself into a black hole. That's great. But here's the real question. Are you designing your class for the expert you become, or the student who's still trying to figure out how to log into the LMS? Dr. Mike May, who is the lower division coordinator in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at St. Louis University, reminds us to design like confusion is the default setting. Tip 5 is to channel your inner beginner and teach like it's still hard for you.
If you're a teacher in college, you were never an ordinary student in the class that you're teaching. And beginning classes are as hard for the students in beginning classes as advanced students are for the PhD students. And it becomes easy to forget how hard it was to learn things once you've learned them, because it becomes obvious what they are. But the thing I normally tell my graduate students is just, you're a graduate student in math. You are never an ordinary student in college math. Have pity on the students, and your job is to get through to them.
When you forget how it felt to struggle, you start designing for the expert you become, not the learner in your classroom. We've talked about empathy, how important it is to remember that your students aren't experts. But what happens when imposter syndrome rears its ugly head and you forget that you are? Dr. Derek Harmon is an advisor / mentor / professor to PhD students, and he helps them navigate the leap from learner to teacher. His advice? Own what you know. Tip 6 is to teach with confidence, because that's what helps students to build theirs.
I've had it. Everyone's had it when you are finishing a program and starting to transition into faculty. One of the big things I try to tell them is that you are a content expert in what you are about to transition into from a student to a faculty role. So keep that in mind. And what you need to do is understand that these learners do not have any baseline, or at least anywhere near the foundation of information that you have. So you need to put yourself, or attempt to put yourself, back in the shoes as you were back in that day one when you first took this course. What helped you understand this information? What did the instructors you worked with that taught you, what did they do well to help you convey that information? And see what you can replicate and convey to your own students. And don't make any assumptions about their level of learning, and always pay close attention to their facial and visual cues they give you, because oftentimes they do not want to admit when they don't understand something because they don't want the risk of potential embarrassment.
Imposter syndrome's loud, but your degree is louder. You earn the seat. Now swivel it towards the whiteboard and carry on. We've all had that one student in the back row. The one who didn't speak might be on their phone all class, and it's questionable if they ever opened up the textbook. Jennifer Duncan gets it. The associate professor of English at Georgia State University's Perimeter College knows that this isn't Hogwarts, and students don't show up already sorted into a loves schoolhouse. Some are in house survival. Some are in house group project ghosters, and that's where you come in. Tip 7, not everyone gets sorted into love schoolhouse, and that's okay.
Your students are not like you were when you were in college. We are all in this teaching profession because we loved learning. We may have loved our subject matter. We may have loved reading books and wanted to have a office where we could sit and do that for a large part of the day. My experience when I first started teaching was that my students were very different than I was. It wasn't that they didn't have just as important goals, and it wasn't that they just didn't have just as important strategies to achieving those goals, but they were not necessarily the same type of learner that I was. They were not necessarily the same place in their life that I was. They weren't necessarily going to go about college the way that I went about college. So realizing that our students are not clones of us, our students have their own things going on, and taking the time to figure out what that is. So it's not going to be so much about us presenting information to them. It's going to be about us becoming a resource and a guide that will partner with them.
Some students love learning. Some are just trying to get through this semester. And some, they're one bad exam away from checking out completely. But you're not a sorting hat. You're a guide, and you can reach them. And don't forget that even Slytherins need support. Speaking of support, teaching is a two-way street, and just like students need it, so do we. You wouldn't tell your students to struggle in silence, so why should you? Adriana Bryant, the English and Developmental English instructor at Lone Star College, Kingwood, has a golden rule, and that's tip 8. Ask for help because there's always someone who's been there, done that, and has a Google Drive full of resources to share.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think we, or at least I can say for myself, we come in and we kind of think like we need to be able to do it all, but we have so many great minds out there and colleagues who are working that have been at this for so many years and that they have this great wealth of knowledge. So don't be afraid to ask for help, for guidance, for new ways to do things.
But wait, there's more. Because this tip isn't just about taking, it's also about giving.
And then I would say, don't be afraid to share ideas. That's how we grow as educators, is being able to put ourselves out there in our ideas and seeing how they go and how people accept them or how they benefit others. I think that the more that we're able to do that, we build our own skills as educators and coming up with new and effective ways to teach and to help our students. So I think that that's a great thing.
And if you're wondering what connects it all, it's this, today's bingo bonus.
And then don't be afraid to let your students see your passion. That's the best thing I always hear from my students. They're like, oh, I love being in your class because I see that you get so excited. Sometimes it's probably embarrassing how excited I get. It's not about what I do, but it really matters to your students to see how engaged you are in what you do.
This one's a triple win. Ask for help, share your ideas, and show your passion. Adriana Bryant knows that teaching is not a solo act. It's a team sport. And yes, there's a fan section. No, not that fan section. There you go. And after all that sharing and cheering and accidental oversharing, yes, you're still going to need a plan, a solid one. Enter Dr. Amy Goodman, senior lecturer in the mathematics department at Baylor University, with a masterclass in planning and reflection. After more than 25 years in Baylor's math department, she's mentored more first-timers than she can count. She even runs a teaching practicum just for grad students. Her advice takes us to tip 9. Plan like a pro, but reflect like a rookie.
So I have a lot of practice at telling new instructors what to do when they start out. So my overarching advice to them is to pick a teaching strategy that works for them and plan your entire semester before it begins. Now, I also recommend they don't share that plan with their students in case their plan kind of derails for a little bit, but then they can also plan how to put it back on the rails. But once they plan it out and they feel that they have a system for teaching that they are confident and comfortable with, then just go and execute that. And while you're teaching throughout the semester, take notes about things that really clicked with your class, that worked really well, and take notes about things that did not hit like you wish that it had. And then ask your students for feedback as you're going. Our new faculty and our graduate students have early feedback forms that their classes do that come at the fourth week in a semester, and read those early feedback forms. How are students feeling about the experience you've created for them so far? And then everybody has course evaluations at the end of the semester. Read those course evaluations and hear what your students are telling you about your teaching. Compare that to your own reflection. See what has worked, make sure you keep it. See what's not working, and think about how you can tweak it moving forward. And for those new teachers, and even for me, a 26-year veteran, it's a process you never stop crafting. You just keep taking the feedback and trying to tweak it to make it better every semester.
That's right. Keep your inner rookie on standby, because great teaching is equal parts blueprint and duct tape. Okay, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. It's a hard time to be a teacher. The pressure is high. The appreciation is, well, it's not always high. And the system isn't always built to support people doing the work. Eastern University Senior Online Academic Advisor and first-year composition instructor Julie Moore has seen it firsthand. Students who go into education for the right reasons, but then they leave. Her advice is our next to final tip. You will make a difference, even if no one claps.
I guess I would probably give them a preparatory talk about, look, you're going to go into this hoping to make a difference, and you will. You will make a difference in some students' lives. And those students will be really grateful to you for that. But as far as the system goes, it's extremely flawed. And as far as our culture goes, no one's going to really respect you or appreciate you, because we live in a culture that holds all educators under suspicion.
It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Keep showing up, keep caring, and trust that someone somewhere will remember you as the one who changed their life. And that difference may change everything. It did for me. And if no one said it yet, thank you for showing up. We see you. I was going to end the episode there, but then I spoke with Mary Gertley, psychology instructor at Gaston College, and her words reminded me that no matter how much advice we give, why we still teach matters most. Which brings us to our final tip, and dare I say, North Star.
The number one thing I would say to any instructor who's starting out is go read What the Best College Teachers Do by Ken Bain. Go right now and read it. And if you can't do that, which is what I strongly recommend, it is a very short read, go put into ChatGPT, do The Best College Teachers Do by Ken Bain, one-page summary, and focus very hard on that information as you start your journey. You need to remember it is a privilege and an honor to be in front of students every day, whether it's behind the computer or in front of the classroom. And I think that is very important and something that is critically overlooked as I see social media boards, Reddit boards, this concept or attitude among instructors where I see it's lacking kindness and remembering the privilege and the honor that it is to be in front of students, to change lives, to have a real platform every day is, I'm getting chills right now talking about it. It is something that you do not need to lose focus on.
She said it best. I'm getting chills right now talking about it. And honestly, same. So what did we learn today? Teaching can be hard, but you don't need a dozen tools, perfect syllabus, or a 5-star rating on Rate My Professor to make an impact. You just need a plan, a little empathy, and a North Star that reminds you why you're here. A huge thanks to our featured educators for opening up their classrooms and sharing what works. Go follow them, thank them, or silently just admire their discussion prompts from afar like the respectful pedagogy fan that you are. If you found something helpful in this episode, pass it along to a colleague or that one friend who still starts every semester saying, "This time I'm staying ahead on grading." You know who you are. Leave us a voicemail with your tips at 512-765-4688. And you might just hear yourself in a future episode. Bonus points if it involves surviving imposter syndrome, decoding student silence, or conjuring a Hogwarts-level class discussion. Until next time, I'm Marissa Bluestone, and this is the What and Who of EDU.